The council chamber was silent. Thousands of eyes of many shapes and colors watched the great hall. The Galactic Council had met many times before, but today something felt different. A storm was coming, though no one could see it yet. An alien messenger stood in the middle of the hall. His hands shook as he placed a small crystal on the round table. "This," he said in a low voice, "was found in the outer rim. You must see it." The crystal activated and the chamber filled with blue light. A recording appeared in the air, clear and sharp. It showed cages, long rows of cages, metal and dark. Inside them were children. Human children. Their faces were pale, their small hands gripping the bars. Some cried, some were too weak even to move. A wave of shock moved through the chamber. Some council members gasped, others growled in anger. Even the coldest species, those who cared little for humans, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The messenger spoke again. "This is not rumor, it is real. The prison is hidden near the mining colonies of Sector 12. Someone is keeping human children as animals." The council erupted into voices. Some shouted for silence, others demanded proof. One alien leader, a tall reptilian with golden armor, slammed his claw on the table. "Impossible. Humans are dangerous, yes, but no one would dare touch their young." But the proof was before them. The hologram continued, showing guards, alien guards, pushing food into the cages, treating the children like creatures from a farm. Their small eyes stared at the camera with fear and hopelessness. The chamber grew colder. Everyone knew what this meant. To harm adults was one thing, but to cage children? That was different. That was unforgivable. Far above, the great banners of the Galactic Council waved gently in the air system. Once they stood for order, for peace. Now they looked like empty cloth. In the shadows of the chamber, some whispered, "Who ordered this? Why humans? What happens when Earth finds out?" Because everyone knew humans had a reputation. They were young compared to other races, yes. They did not have the oldest fleets or the largest armies. But they had something else. They had a fire in their blood, a stubbornness, a will that made them dangerous in ways numbers could not measure. If Earth discovered that their children had been caged, the galaxy would not be the same. The reptilian leader spoke again, his voice sharp. "We must bury this. If the humans learn of it, war will spread to every system." But another voice, calm and strong, rose from across the hall. It was a small alien, thin and pale, from a peaceful race that had never fought a war. "Bury this?" he asked softly. "Children are in cages. You speak of politics while they suffer? What are we, if not protectors of life?" The chamber fell silent. The words cut deeper than weapons. For the first time, some felt shame. The messenger who had brought the crystal raised his voice. "I risked death to bring this. Already the prison guards know they are discovered. Already whispers travel. If you silence this, it will not vanish. The truth always spreads." Outside the council chamber, across the stars, small sparks of outrage had already begun. Traitors carried the story. Smugglers spoke in hushed tones. And in hidden corners of the galaxy, warriors sharpened their blades, swearing vengeance for what they had seen. The hologram flickered once more. A small child, no older than 7, stared at the camera. His lips moved, whispering words that only some translators could catch. "Help us." The image vanished, no one moved. No one spoke. The silence was heavy, thicker than the walls of the chamber. Each leader knew the same truth. This was not just about humans. This was about morality, about the soul of the galaxy. If such crimes could be done to the young of one race, then no child was safe. But beneath the silence was another truth, darker and heavier. If the humans found out, if Earth learned of this cruelty, then wrath would follow. A wrath so strong that no council, no fleet, no army could stop it. The reptilian leader leaned back, his golden eyes shining with unease. "Pray they do not discover this," he muttered. But deep inside, everyone knew. They would discover it, and when they did, the galaxy would burn. The secret could not stay hidden. The moment the recording left the council chamber, it began to spread. First, a traitor carried it to another world. Then a smuggler shared it in a shadow port. Soon thousands had seen it. The image of human children in cages traveled faster than any fleet. On the planet Vare, markets stopped. Merchants put down their goods to stare at the projection playing above the trade towers. Mothers clutched their own young tighter. Fathers growled in anger. Even those who had never met a human felt rage burn in their hearts. In the mining colonies of Rulkor, workers watched the hologram in silence. Their faces were covered in dust, their bodies tired from long labor. But when they saw small human children crying behind metal bars, they dropped their tools. "Who dares this?" one asked. Another whispered, "If they cage humans today, whose children will be next?" The anger spread like fire. Across the galaxy, taverns, meeting halls, and ship decks echoed with the same question. How could anyone do this? The Galactic Council tried to stop it. They sent messages saying the recording was false, that it was enemy propaganda, but no one believed them. The faces of the children were too real, the cries too sharp. Lies could not erase the truth. On some worlds, riots began. Angry crowds filled the streets shouting for justice. Alien banners were torn down, council offices burned. In many cities, even the guards refused to fight the protesters. They too had seen the images. They too were furious. Not all species were united. Some leaders tried to stay silent, afraid of human revenge. Others argued that humans were dangerous, that perhaps caging them was necessary. But their voices were weak, drowned by the storm of outrage. Among the warrior races, the reaction was even stronger. On the planet Zar, home of the feared Kurok warriors, a council of elders gathered. They watched the crystal again in silence. When it ended, the eldest rose from his seat. His voice shook with anger. They dared to cage children? Human children? Then let the stars remember this day as the beginning of war. The warriors pounded their fists against their armor. To them, honor was sacred, and to harm children was the greatest dishonor of all. They swore blood vengeance. News reached even the cold, dark reaches of space where mercenaries and pirates lived. Many of them laughed at the Galactic Council's weakness. But even among them, some felt unease. If humans rose in fury, the balance of power would change forever. In the high towers of the Galactic Council, leaders argued without end. Some demanded immediate punishment for those responsible. Others feared human retaliation more than justice. "We must be careful," one counselor hissed. "If Earth learns too quickly, they will not speak. They will strike." But the truth was already too loud to silence. Messages reached Earth's allies. Ships carried whispers into human-controlled space. The spark was close to becoming a flame. On a distant world, an old alien teacher spoke to her students as they watched the recording. She was from a gentle race that avoided war. Her voice trembled. "I told you once that humans are dangerous because they fight with all their heart. But look here, now you see why. To cage their children is to awaken a storm greater than any in the galaxy." The student stared at the image of the boy, whispering, "Help us." None could forget his face. The outrage grew. Entire star systems demanded answers from the council. The halls of power were filled with protests. Leaders who tried to hide the crime found themselves surrounded by their own angry citizens. And still, no one knew who had given the order. Some whispered it was a secret faction of the council. Others blamed rogue warlords. The truth remained hidden in shadows. But one truth was clear to all. This crime had changed everything. What began as whispers in dark corridors was now a roar that shook the stars. The galaxy had seen something it could never forget. The image of human children behind metal bars had planted a seed of fury that no power could stop. And though Earth had not yet spoken, all knew what would come. Humans would learn. They would rise. And when they did, the fury of aliens would be nothing compared to the wrath of humanity itself. The galaxy had seen anger before, but never like this. It began quietly. A single alien fleet, small but proud, moved out of its home system. They were the Kurok, a warrior race feared across the stars. Their leaders had sworn an oath. No child, human or otherwise, should ever suffer chains. And now, with the image of human children burned into their hearts, they prepared for war. Their ships were old, scarred from battles, but their spirits burned like fire. They did not wait for permission from the Galactic Council. They did not send warnings. In silence, they set their course for the prison world of Sector 12. The prison was built to be hidden, surrounded by asteroid fields and guarded by mercenaries. But when the Kurok fleet arrived, no rock or weapon could stop them. The first blast cut through the outer defenses like a knife through paper. Explosions lit the darkness. Guards scrambled, calling for reinforcements, but none came. Inside the prison, the children heard the rumble. Metal walls shook, dust falling from the ceilings. For the first time, hope flickered in their eyes. The Kurok warriors stormed the facility. Their blades and rifles burned bright. The guards tried to fight, but fear broke them quickly. Many threw down their weapons, others begged for mercy. The warriors gave none. To caged children was unforgivable. When the first cage door opened, silence filled the room. A small human girl stepped forward, her face thin from hunger, her eyes wide. She looked up at the armored giant before her. Not sure if he was friend or enemy, slowly the warrior knelt. He removed his helmet. His scarred face softened as he whispered, "You are free." The children cried, but this time not from pain. The sound was different, it was relief. It was the sound of chains breaking. The Kurok freed every cage, carrying the weakest in their arms, giving food to those who could barely stand. They promised protection. They swore no harm would ever touch them again. But the Kurok did not stop there. They burned the prison to ashes. Towers fell, walls melted, and the banners of the unknown faction who had built this place were torn down. Only rubble and smoke remained. Across the galaxy, the story spread like wildfire. The warrior race had acted where the council hesitated. For the first time, someone had answered cruelty with steel. Some aliens cheered. "Finally, justice," they said. At last, someone had the courage. Others were afraid. If the Kurok had destroyed one prison, what would stop others from rising? If more species joined them, the galaxy would soon be at war. In the council chamber, panic spread. Leaders shouted at one another. "This was reckless. They will bring ruin on us all. Do you not see? If humans hear of this, we are finished." But it was already too late. Humans had begun to hear whispers. Traitors, mercenaries, even sympathetic aliens carried the news into human space. The stories changed as they traveled. Some said thousands of children had been caged, others spoke of secret experiments. Each tale only fueled the fire. On Earth, leaders listened in silence. They did not shout. They did not panic. They simply watched the recordings, the cages, the cries, the rescue by alien warriors, and then they gave one order: find out who is responsible. The calmness of their words frightened those who heard them. For all races of the galaxy knew, humans did not shout when they were truly angry. They grew quiet. They grew focused. And when they finally struck, nothing could stop them. Meanwhile, the Kurok fleet carried the children away. Some were returned to safe colonies, others to human allies. The warriors stood guard, not as conquerors but as protectors. Their message was clear. If the council would not protect the innocent, then they would. But hidden in the dark corners of the galaxy, those who had built the prison watched in silence. Their plans had been uncovered, their secrets burned, but they were not finished. They whispered among themselves, plotting their next move. The galaxy trembled. For everyone knew this was only the beginning. The first wrath had fallen and the true storm was yet to come. For many days, humanity stayed silent. The galaxy expected them to shout, to send angry messages, to make threats across every channel. But Earth did not. Human fleets did not move at first. Human leaders did not appear on screens. Instead, they listened. They gathered every report, every recording, every whisper from traitors and smugglers. In deep underground halls, leaders and commanders of Earth met in silence. The images of children in cages played again and again on giant walls. Some leaders clenched their fists, others wiped their eyes, but none spoke quickly. Finally, one voice broke the silence. It was Admiral Reyes, an old soldier with scars on his face. He leaned forward and said, "This is not war yet. This is worse. This is a test. Someone thought humanity was weak enough to allow this. Someone thought caging our young would break us. They were wrong." The room was quiet, but his words were heavy as iron. Orders were given. Fleets that had been hidden in the dark for years began to move. Silent ships rose from under oceans, hidden stations and secret bases. They did not rush. They did not flash their banners. They moved with deadly calm like predators in the night. The first message from Earth to the Galactic Council was short. Only 3 words: release them all. It was not shouted. It was not long. But the weight of those words shook the council chamber. Every leader understood the humans were not asking. They were warning. The council panicked. Some argued they should obey at once, freeing any human captives to avoid destruction. Others whispered about resisting, but their voices shook with fear. Meanwhile, human fleets moved closer to the prison sectors. Scouts disappeared, sensors went blind. It was as if the very stars themselves had been silenced. The galaxy began to realize Earth was not standing still. Earth was hunting. On one neutral world, alien citizens saw a human ambassador arrive. He wore no armor, carried no weapon, but his presence made the room colder. His words were calm. "We will not forget. We will not forgive. Those who caged our children will face us. If you stand with them, you will fall with them. If you stand aside, you may survive." The aliens who heard this trembled. They had heard threats before from other empires, but this was different. This was not a shout of anger. It was a quiet promise, a death sentence written in soft words. Across human space, soldiers prepared. They sharpened blades, checked weapons, and kissed their families goodbye. They were not told the full plan, but they did not need to know. It was enough to see the faces of the children in those cages. That image was burned into every heart. Even the youngest soldiers swore an oath. Never again. Meanwhile, the rescued children were brought to Earth. Hospitals cared for them. Families embraced them. News channels across human worlds showed their faces. The galaxy watched as humans saw their children return, weak but alive. There was no celebration. No cheering, only silence. Only tears. But in that silence, something else grew. A storm. Alien races who had once feared humans now feared them more. They saw not wild rage, but cold focus. The humans were not rushing blindly into war. They were waiting, preparing, calculating. That made them more dangerous than ever. Whispers spread. When humans finally strike, it will not be small. It will not be limited. It will be final. In secret, the factions who had ordered the cages met in hidden chambers. They argued, they blamed each other, they planned, but none of them could escape the truth. The humans knew now. The humans were coming, and when humanity finally moved, no wall, no fleet, no council would be strong enough to stop them. The galaxy held its breath, for the response of humanity had only begun. The galaxy did not have to wait long. The storm that everyone feared finally arrived. At the edge of Sector 12, where the prison world once stood, fleets began to gather. Some belonged to the factions who had ordered the cages. They thought they could still hide the truth, still control the story with weapons. Other fleets came from races who were outraged, ready to stand against the crime. And then, from the dark of space, human warships appeared. They came without sound, without warning. Massive ships, black as the void, moved like shadows. Their hulls carried no banners, only the quiet mark of Earth. Sensors flickered and failed as the human fleet spread across the sector like a net closing on prey. The first clash began when mercenary ships opened fire. They hoped to scatter the humans, to frighten them. But the human fleet did not scatter. Their ships moved in perfect silence, responding with strikes so fast and sharp that the mercenaries never stood a chance. In minutes, their fleet was gone, broken fire drifting through the stars. The factions who had built the cages panicked. "Send everything we have," they shouted. Dozens of warships, armed with the deadliest alien weapons, rushed toward the humans. The battle that followed shook the system. Laser fire cut across the void. Missiles lit the dark like falling suns, and explosions turned asteroids into burning fragments. The galaxy watched through hidden eyes and secret channels. What they saw chilled them. Humans were not fighting with anger. They were fighting with cold precision. Every shot was measured. Every move was planned. The human fleet cut through enemy lines as if they already knew every weakness, every blind spot. Ships that had once been feared across the stars fell one after another. But humans were not the only ones in the fight. The Kurok warriors who had rescued the first children joined them. Their blades burned bright as they tore through enemy ships. Other alien allies followed, driven by rage and honor. For the first time, humans and aliens stood side by side in a war not for land, not for power, but for justice. Inside the enemy command ship, fear grew. The leaders who had ordered the cages shouted at one another. Some tried to flee, others tried to surrender, but there was no escape. Human ships closed in from every side. Then came the moment the galaxy would never forget. The human flagship, Iron Will, sent a final message. It was short, only 2 words, "Never again." And with that, the enemy command ship was destroyed. A single beam of energy cut it in half, fire and light spilling into the void. The warlords who had thought themselves untouchable vanished in a burst of flames. The rest of the enemy fleet broke apart. Some surrendered, others fled into deep space, but their cause was finished. The prison project, the cages, the cruelty, it all ended in fire. When the battle was over, silence returned to the sector. Wreckage floated among the stars, glowing faintly in the darkness. Human ships moved among the ruins, not to celebrate but to search. They looked for survivors, especially children who might still be hidden in secret transports. On one damaged station, human Marines found another set of cages. More children, weak but alive, stared up as the doors opened. The soldiers knelt, lifted them gently, and whispered the same words the Kurok had spoken before. "You are free." The images spread across the galaxy once more. This time not of cages but of freedom. Humans carrying children out of the dark, allies standing beside them, the prison world burning behind. For many species, it was the first time they saw humanity not as conquerors, not as warriors, but as protectors. But beneath the hope was fear, because everyone now understood what had truly happened. The galaxy had seen human wrath with its own eyes. They had watched humans fight not for glory, not for wealth, but for their children, and nothing was more dangerous than that. The clash of fleets had ended, but the message remained, burned into the hearts of every race. The battle was over, but the galaxy did not feel peace. The wreckage of fleets still drifted in Sector 12. Burned metal, broken ships, and shattered weapons floated in silence, a graveyard in space. Human ships moved slowly among the ruins, gathering survivors and searching for any hidden prisons. The fighting was done, but the mission was not finished. On the human flagship Iron Will, Admiral Reyes stood before the war table. The holograms showed the destroyed fleets, the fallen stations, and the freed children. His face was calm, but his eyes were heavy. "This is only the beginning," he said to his officers. "Someone gave the order to build those cages. Someone thought humanity could be broken. Until we find them, this war is not over." The words spread quietly through the fleet. Soldiers did not cheer. They did not shout victory. They understood the truth. This was no end. It was the start of something larger, something darker. Across the galaxy, the reaction was sharp. On some worlds, aliens celebrated. They praised the humans and their allies, calling them defenders of the innocent. In the markets and streets, many whispered, "At last, justice has been served." But in other places, fear spread. Leaders trembled as they watched the recordings of the battle. They had seen how calmly, how precisely the humans fought. No wasted fire, no hesitation. It was not blind rage. It was a storm controlled by steady hands. That was more terrifying than uncontrolled fury. In council chambers, the arguments grew louder. Some leaders demanded that humanity be punished before they became too powerful. Others warned against it, saying, "Did you not see what they just did? They destroyed fleets larger than their own. If we push them further, they will burn everything." And so the council was divided, half filled with fear of humans, half filled with shame for what had been allowed. In the shadows, whispers moved faster than light. Traitors told stories that grew with each telling. Some said humans had destroyed 100 ships with a single command. Others claimed they had weapons that could erase entire planets. The truth did not matter. The fear was enough. On Earth, the freed children returned. Families embraced them, tears streaming down their faces. Entire cities watched as the survivors were welcomed home. But again, there was no loud celebration, only silence broken by the quiet words of parents holding their children close. "You are safe now." The galaxy watched these moments too. They saw that humans did not need to shout about their power. Their silence was the loudest threat of all. In distant systems, warlords who had once thought themselves untouchable now lived in terror. They ordered their fleets to hide, their bases to vanish into the dark. But hiding would not save them. Humanity had already begun to hunt. Among the common people of the galaxy, a saying spread like wildfire: "Fear the silence of Earth." It meant that humans did not need to boast, did not need to threaten. When they were quiet, when their voices were calm, that was when they were most dangerous. Even allies of humanity felt the weight of that silence. The Kurok warriors, proud of their role in rescuing the first children, spoke to their people. One elder said, "We saw human wrath with our own eyes. We fought beside them. They do not strike for greed or conquest. They strike for their young. That is why they cannot be stopped." The galaxy shivered at those words, but in the deepest shadows, the ones who had planned the cages were not finished. They had lost one battle, yes, but their ambition still burned. In secret rooms, far from prying eyes, they whispered new plans. They swore that humanity would one day fall. What they did not understand was this: the day they caged human children, they had already lost, because now every race, every leader, Every citizen of the galaxy had seen the truth. To harm humanity's young was to call death itself, and the fear of that truth spread farther than any fleet, deeper than any weapon. The galaxy would never forget. The galaxy was quiet, too quiet. Ships drifted in silence. Fleets returned to their home systems. The war seemed to pause, but everyone knew this was not peace. It was only the silence before another storm. On the human flagship Iron Will, Admiral Reyes stood at the viewing deck. Stars stretched out in the distance, cold and endless. He thought about the freed children, about the battles fought, and about the shadows still hiding out there. His hand rested on the railing, firm and steady. "They will come again," he whispered. Behind him, Commander Hale spoke. "Admiral, reports are in. The Council is split. Half of them want to punish us, half want to join us. The galaxy is afraid," Reyes nodded. His eyes did not leave the stars. "Good, fear will keep them cautious. But fear will also make some reckless. And reckless leaders start wars." The words carried a weight that the crew felt in their bones. Far away in hidden chambers on a nameless world, those who had ordered the cages sat in secret meetings. They were not finished. Their voices hissed in the dark. Humanity grows bold. They must be broken before they grow stronger. They do not understand the price of defiance. But among them, one voice trembled. "You saw what they did to fleets 3 times their size. You saw how they burned stations and freed the young. If we strike again, we may not survive." The others silenced him with cold stares. "Fear is weakness," one leader spat. "We cannot let them think they are untouchable. We will find their limits. We will crush them." And so plans began to form again. Plans darker than before. Plans whispered with hatred. In the markets of neutral worlds, rumors raced faster than any ship. Traders spoke of new weapons being built. Some claimed entire armadas were preparing in the shadows. Others whispered of old powers being awakened. Machines from forgotten wars, weapons sealed for ages. No one knew what was true. But fear did not need truth to grow. On Earth, the freed children played once more under open skies. Their laughter echoed through parks and streets. But soldiers stationed nearby never smiled. They stood guard, always watching the skies, waiting for the next strike. Families tried to live, but even in the joy of reunion, the question remained, when will the storm return? In the Kurok homeworld, warriors sharpened their blades and cleaned their rifles. They had seen human wrath, and they had chosen to stand beside it. "If the storm comes again," their leader said, "we will not hide. We will fight. Because the galaxy must know there are some lines that cannot be crossed." Other species began to choose sides. Some declared open alliance with Earth. Others hid their intentions, watching, waiting. The balance of power shifted like sand in a storm. Admiral Reyes met with his council of captains. Maps lit the table with star systems glowing red. "We cannot wait for the enemy to strike again," he said. "We must prepare. When the storm comes, we will be ready." A young captain asked, "Admiral, what if the storm is greater than we can imagine? What if the galaxy unites against us?" Reyes looked around the room. His voice was calm, but it carried steel. "Then they will learn. They will learn what happens when the galaxy dares to harm our children." The room fell silent. No one doubted him. In the shadows of the galaxy, the enemy whispered. On Earth, children laughed under the sun. Between them stretched the stars, vast and waiting. The silence was deep, heavy, alive with tension. Every fleet, every soldier, every leader could feel it. The galaxy was holding its breath because everyone knew the day would come. The storm would rise again, and when it did, nothing would be the same.